Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Bluebell Model Railway channel, here with me Matt. Here we have in front of us a model for review. Now before I go much further, I will admit this is my second Locomotion number 1. The first one I purchased ran for a day and then stopped and will no longer run or electrically operate, shall we say. So this is a replacement model from Derails, and I am extremely grateful to them for putting one aside when I did have the problem, and they got this to me extremely quickly within a few days after the return had been processed. And with that I have some more biscuits, so even better news. So let's get on with the review. So in front of us we have the Stockton and Darlington Railway Locomotion number 1 Era 11, so as preserved in the Shildon Museum up at the NRM, and this is produced by Hornby. This item is R30346 and is one of 2 currently available. This one is in the standard release, so to model shops etc, and there is also a special edition which is Era 2 with a slightly different coloured box and different coloured sort of darker wood effect, and also a different name printed on the actual boiler cladding, and that is Era 2 as mentioned, although it still is exactly the same model. This model was announced as one of their flagship models for the 2024 range. I pre-ordered this model in early January 2024 from Derails, of course. The price overall was £152. Now since then the price has increased. I think it was in September 2024 and went up to around about 166. Although that is a little bit off RRP, which I think is around about 186, which I can't quite remember off the top of my head. However, for the price that I paid, it is quite a staggering piece of miniature engineering, which we'll get into in a little while. So this model, as I mentioned, came from Derails, and usually they test run it and check it, although on this occasion, as it's so fragile, they probably elected not to do that, so that falls down to me. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I did have a problem with the last one, and I have already just checked this one over just to make sure it's okay. It's all good all round, so we'll get into that a little bit later. The model itself comes in a nice presentation box, as you've seen on the previous clip. And inside that box it comes in a 2-piece plastic shell, not the normal clamshell that we're used to or ice cube packaging, just a 2-piece shell. The top lifts off of the bottom and the locomotive is attached to the bottom layer, which has a small screw which you need to undo on the underside. But this also is quite handy as it comes in use as an oiling cradle. If you read the instructions, it does mention this inside, and also keeps the motion on top of the boiler protected and safe away from any damage, as it does in the box itself whilst in transit. Within the box you get small detailing as well as a crew, and also various couplings, of which there are 3: a magnet type for the children wagons, an NEM type for other kind of carriages you wish to pull with this, and also the normal sort of rocket type coupling which clips into a hole where the bucket is currently. The locomotive itself has pickup on all wheels, some on just one side and some on the other. This is done through a wire, or a coiled spring wire as it is, going into a PCB. There are no wiper pickups or anything on this, it's just too tiny to fit them in. The DCC on this is an X18 decoder. This is a DCC ready version and is accessed underneath the tank and the coal load in the tender truck. This is via a screw on the underside. The intricacy on the valve gear is quite astonishing. It really is quite amazing that it all works. Going around the model, it is not a very heavy model, it is very light, being die cast metal and plastic construction. There is quite a few little detailed differences from side to side, and also on the wheels as well. One wheel is different to all the other three, which is also quite prototypical. No one really knows when that happened or when it was changed, or maybe, as I will mention, being Era 11, being a restoration project from all the years prior, from Victorians, etc., you never quite know what's original and what's not. However, Hornby have modelled this locomotive really nicely, and certainly belongs in anybody's collection. The locomotive itself has all metal wheels, which I think it might be a first for Hornby, and painted as well. The top plastic part of the boiler barrel is nicely decorated in a nice wood effect. This is slightly darker on the Collector's Club edition, but again, being a lighter sort of museum piece and preservation condition, it is a little bit lighter on this model. Also, the difference is we have a nameplate on this Era 11 model, and does look very nice as well. It is not etched, it is just printed. Moving just to the back of the locomotive, we can see the firebox door, and this is open, although I do not believe this has a firebox glow fitted on this model. Would have been quite nice if it did. You do get, as mentioned, a fireman and also a driver in the detail pack. The fireman will go in the trailer or sit alongside the trailer upon the side, and the driver himself would sit to the left on the small stool to the left of the motion there in shot. On the tender or trailer of this locomotive, we have again some really nice wood effect printed on the sides. Being plastic, unfortunately, you can see a fair bit of light bleed coming through. The wheels are nicely modelled in their original style and are painted in the centres. On the rear you can see a bucket which clips into a hole, and this is where you can attach the various couplings that come with this model, either on top or the two below. Please read the instructions and fit the correct one for your needs. Due to this model's very diminutive size and miniature and micro engineering, this model only weighs 49 grams approximately, so it certainly won't be pulling any Mark 1s. However, it does run quite nicely and smoothly. I know there have been a few problems, like jerky running and jittery running, as well as a bit of stiff running. This has been tracked down to some of the rods binding on the step board on the side of the locomotive, so it might be worth having a look at either oiling those areas and seeing how it does, but it does seem to want a fair bit of time to run in. The model also has quite a lot of metal components within the motion, so you need to take that into account as well. So give it some time, run it in and take your time with it. My previous model, or first model, I believe had a motor failure. Now, depending if this is just an isolated case, they could be prone to this, so do keep an eye out. I don't know what motor they put in here or in this model. I got a feeling it might be a coreless motor, but without any images or data on it, I have no idea. With the model contents on display, I think it's now time to suit it up and put it on the rolling road, and let's see how it gets on. Fingers crossed.